What's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video of World of Warships. And today I'm going to be talking about a very different topic about the current state of the submarines in the game. And this patch 13.2 Wargaming has addressed the shotgunning issue, which actually come up with a plethora of problems that I'm going to be explaining in this video. But before talking about those views and opinions of mine about the recent changes to submarine, hit the like button, subscribe. I make daily World of Warship videos, and I also have recently uploaded the Garo video, which I'm basically looking at right now. So you can also check that out as well, and you can able to clearly see that what I am talking about. So the changes that Wargaming did to the submarines is that if you have these torpedoes, the alternate and those homing torpedoes, if you shoot them beyond 3 kilometer range, they will have the full damage penetration, or whatever you call it. Like in this case, let me show you here. So the torpedoes of the Garo with homing have 6 kilometer range and they do 10,700 damage, right? So if you have a distance of 3 kilometer range or above for a certain torpedo, as you can able to see the maximum damage range, well, then you will be able to get its full torpedo damage potential. Otherwise, the torpedo only will deal 10% of the damage. Well, to compensate that, they have massively buffed the submarines. Like, it is crazy to watch like what they have really did with that. So let me show you a couple of stats. So here, the Garo infamous power comes up with these alternate torpedoes, and as you can able to see, they deal almost 22,200 damage. It is crazy that the situation of these torpedoes is ridiculous right now. These are torpedoes that basically comparable to now Shimakaze. They have so much high damage that even sending 6 torpedoes on a single battleship alone, basically going to death strike him almost full HP. It is crazy. More buffs to the submarines are, which is basically torpedo tube modification 3, which is basically a straight damage buff to 7%. And also, if you don't like getting a lot of damage from ASW attacks, you also have this reinforced bulkheads upgrade, which basically straight reduce the damage by 15%, which is also very, very crazy to watch. So these buffs are pretty weird, and I mean, it does not really, gives that much of an incentive, for the players that thought that shotgunning is an issue and it will be compensated like that. It's kind of crazy. Like, Wargaming actually compensated that shotgunning in the buffs that are kind of unbelievable. Like, the damage output with these torpedoes is insane. Like, you can able to send 6 of these torpedoes every almost like 1.5 minutes. And I mean, if you do that with this sort of firepower, I mean, you will definitely going to mess these battleships so much easy. And I mean, submarines basically easily able to counter destroyers by just going into the maximum depth, and destroyer will never gonna be able to know that which location that Gato or Balau or other submarine might be. And that is pretty insane. I mean, this is one ship that I'm talking about. Now talk about the U-4501. Insane underwater maneuvering, like it's just crazy. And these torpedoes are 10 kilometer range. Again, they also buffed it a bit. Like, if you can just straight up put this buff, which is basically torpedo damage, and if you want to go into the defensive side, you can also use this thing as well. So if you go into the offensive capability, you just get another buff. So instead of having like 9,200-ish damage, now you basically almost have 10,000 damage to these homing torpedoes. So imagine you can basically able to home on a target and keep sending these torpedoes. That can be pretty brutal if you're able to position your submarine right. And I mean, a good submarine player can still be a really annoying thing to deal with in the game. Like, it is ridiculous. Then we will come up to the Thrasher. Thrasher also got the torpedoes buff like crazy. Like, it used to be a lot less, and now clearly you have 8,700 damage with these torpedoes. And I mean, by the way, you can send quite a lot of torpedoes. Like, 4 number of loaders, 4 of them are on the bow, and stern torpedo tubes loader are on the stern, that is 3. So you can basically pump up so much torpedoes, and reload time you can clearly see it's even lesser than any of other submarines. So it's 34 seconds. It's pretty crazy. So I mean, in terms of Gato, I think the shotgunning is still not that. You just need to go onto a battleship which is 4 kilometers away, and you will still do full damage. It does not really matter. It does not give any incentive not to shotgun a battleship, and that also combined with the fact that they also buff these torpedoes. It's really weird. It's kind of insane really at this point. You also have these submarines that like tier 8 S-89. It also have gotten these torpedoes buff. Like look at the damage now. It has now 17,000 damage. At this tier, if you have torpedoes that do 17,000 damage with 4 of these torpedoes, you're basically going to deathstruck a battleship. Like it is not a problem whatsoever. You also have homing torpedoes as well. And combine the fact it also have one of the best submarine surveillance at this tier, which is 9 kilometer. Like makes S-189 pretty insane for a premium sub. Then you also have Alliance that also have alternate torpedoes, and having these weird torpedoes that basically home onto a target for very long, like almost non-existent distance between non-homing and homing, which basically means that you will eat torpedoes and they are not going to be that dodgeable, and they will also have this 1.1 kilometer detection. It's crazy. So submarines, I mean, I'm not saying like the submarines are like, oh, it is really high game impacting. They are not. The fact is they are not having a high game impact, but the problem is they are very annoying in the game. I mean, in the case of carriers, you know that the carriers definitely are certainly very powerful in many situations, sure. But if you turn out, you will be able to mitigate some damage. I mean, your air defenses will still do something. Like you are interacting with carriers in some way or the other. In the case of submarines, it's gonna be weird because he will ping, and I mean, we're still not gonna be able to have a perfect location where he actually pinged and where he's gone. It's a really weird game, or a mini game chess that we are playing against submarines that basically makes life pretty hard. So these buffs to these torpedoes, I mean, look at these torpedo buffs, 9,200. That's insane. With these torpedoes, and you also have these alternate torpedoes that does like almost 16,000. It's crazy. So I mean, my opinion on these subs are like they should try to basically nerf the shotgunning in a lot much like different way like they did right now, because this does not give any incentive to basically not to shotgun. They will still do, but at like higher range, like at 4 or 5 kilometers they will shotgun. A good destroyer player, if he helms a submarine, he can just send these Gato torpedoes. He can just get 100% target hit on a battleship because he plays Shimakaze so effectively. Now he will basically make like these torpedoes look like nothing, like super easy to hit if he able to position himself well. He just have to avoid the submarine. I mean, which by the way, this nerf actually limited the submarine to submarine interaction so much that it's kind of crazy now. Like once you spot the submarine around 3-4 kilometers, well, you're going to be looking at yourself and not going to be doing damage, because 10% damage will not going to do anything. So you have to, like, it's like incentivized to basically having a very limited counter against submarines, except you just pop the surveillance. And I mean, you cannot do much damage to the submarine. Maybe you ping it, and maybe you might land torpedoes outside those 3-kilometer range. But most of the time, if you are very close to each other, that is probably the worst thing to do in a submarine. And so submarines will never gonna do that. That is for sure. So that is also a big issue, I would say. Even more limited interaction of submarines because of this change. And it seems to be pretty weird. All these submarines got it buffed. I mean, I-56, I mean, it has insanely, like, you can send 6 torpedoes. I mean, it is definitely not having the highest of the battery, but still, these alternative torpedoes will hit hard, like crazy. So you can still shotgun any ship with these, no problem whatsoever. So these are my thoughts about the submarine. And I don't know about you guys, but please comment down below and think, like, maybe explain to me that whether am I saying something right or not. I totally believe that this is kind of an unjustified change. They should just stay, or at least make the torpedoes not buffed at all, and they just nerf the shotgunning in a bit different way than it is currently implemented in the game. So comment me down below and tell me whether you are agreeing with these changes or not. So thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you into the next one. Peace out.